Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening to some, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to Hirsch's Visual Gun Detection webinar with our technology partner, Omnilert. We're super excited to have you on with us today. We have Eric Polovich, the Director of Sales Operations at Omnilert, along with Rick Urban, the Senior Product Manager here at Hirsch. We'll start with a quick introduction of both Hirsch and Omnilert, and then we'll dive into the Omnilert workflow and flexible deployment options, and then we'll finish up with a Q&A session. So please feel free to ask your questions as they arise throughout the presentation by putting your question into the Q&A panel, and we'll address each of those questions at the end. And with that, Rick, I'll hand it over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever you are in the world. I will give a quick update. And as Ryan said, I am the Senior Product Manager. I'm actually the Senior Product Manager for Video Systems and Solutions at Hirsch. And just a little quick background, I'm sure most of everybody on this call probably knows, but if not, we recently transitioned from Identiv to the Hirsch brand following our acquisition earlier this year. And so you will start seeing everything, and you should be seeing everything now moving forward as the Hirsch brand. Hirsch remains today as the physical security and identity company that used to be known as Premises in the Identiv space. And we're going to continue to operate as that moving forward under the Hirsch brand. Pretty simple and straightforward. Under the physical security side is all of our physical security, access control, video solutions and credentials. And on the identity side, we continue to sell, manufacture smart card readers, security keys, etc. With that being said, we continue to offer and sell a full end-to-end security solution with all of the things that we have. And we'll talk about that a little bit and how Omnilert fits into our ecosystem and is a key part of our end-to-end solution. But the things that we offer, and particularly the things that I manage, are the things that you see across the bottom. So our flagship enterprise VMS product, Velocity Vision, fully integrated with our advanced analytics offering, Vision AI. We offer that in conjunction as well for the option to have hot cloud storage with our product called Vision Cloud. So that allows you to do on-prem short-term recording, long-term off-prem recording and retention. And we have the ability to run all of this, including Omnilert inside of our hyper-converged infrastructure that's known as Velocity One. And then when you couple that with our flagship and enterprise access control product, Velocity, all the hardware that we manufacture, all the panels, readers, credentials, you start to get a very full and complete security solution, as well as us being a reseller. So you can get all of your hardware from us. We are a reseller of Hanwha and Vivotech cameras, along with all the storage, everything that you need to run all of these applications. We can offer those for, like I said, a true end-to-end solution. Next. These just break down a little bit more of the things that I spoke about, just so that you can see them. But again, Velocity Vision is our open, unified platform for video management. For Velocity, fully integrated, you can operate, react, respond to all of your access control events, tie them in with video. You can use those all in a single pane of glass in a unified open platform inside of Velocity Vision. Full way to communication between the two of those. And then you can operate, again, Vision AI, our analytic platform inside of there as well, completely integrated. The three of those are all tied together very tightly. And again, we have the option for the hybrid cloud storage, and that is for video only. There is currently no other data that is pushed up there. That's a surveillance product for video, all running again inside of Velocity One, our hyper-converged infrastructure. Next. and then we'll go over to Eric, and Eric will give you guys an introduction and talk about Omnilert.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. My name is Eric Polovich, and I'm the Director of Sales Operations here at Omnilert. But more important than that, I'm a subject matter expert on our visual gun detection platform. A little bit about Omnilert. Omnilert's been around for about 20 years. We were actually founded in 2004 as an emergency mass notification and communications company, specifically dealing in emergency communications, outbound messaging, inbound, tipping, alerting, and we really rapidly expanded as the needs for communication grew. In 2007, the Virginia Tech incident occurred, and our industry grew up quite a bit. We released our visual gun detection product in 2019 after many years of development with experts in the computer vision field. And that product is a AI tool that utilizes existing camera systems to detect a weapon in frame, hopefully before a shot is fired. And then using that 20 years of communications history, we facilitate a quick human-in-the-loop review and action. So we can detect that weapon in less than a second and then take action on it seconds later, hopefully stopping or mitigating a shooting. And we were a company founded specifically to combat violence on campus, then turned into violence wherever you are. And there's no greater threat in America right now, I think, than gun violence. It's, those numbers keep climbing, going up over and over year. Gun violence in our schools isn't going anywhere either. And that's a big draw for the Omnilert product. We're certainly capable there in healthcare environments, external, anywhere that people gather. Guns have been a threat. They're now the biggest threat to our children. They kill more children than anything else right now, more than disease, more than car accidents. It's an issue. And we've done a lot to mitigate that, hardening facilities, access control, locking things down quicker. And that's really done one thing. It's driven those incidents outdoors. 50% of shootings start outdoors. 80% of school shootings start outdoors before moving inside. And that gives us an opportunity for early detection and an early warning, which means we can start earlier action. Now, our technology differs from what most people think of when they think of weapon detection. We're not metal detection. We're not a walkthrough device. Visual detection does not require an individual manning a doorway or an entryway to operate. It's not looking for concealed weapons. It's also not audible detection. We're not listening for a gunshot. We're not listening for anything. What visual detection is going to be most similar to is human detection. We see a gun in frame on a camera, usually a brandished weapon or a weapon that's visible. And then we act on that. With visual detection, you get all of the benefits of automation and AI. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't get distracted after a short amount of time. It doesn't have a bad day on a Sunday or over the weekend, come in grumpy on a Monday and perform less. It's going to spend the same amount of attention on every pixel on every screen as it does every other. Mission-minded, doing one thing, looking for firearms. We're really looking to take that investment that our customers have made in their surveillance systems and activate it. The numbers don't really lie. We know that most of the cameras out there, over 85 million of them at the end of 2024, they're not manned by a human being. They're not watched. Most of the footage that is recorded is never addressed before deletion. And for those cameras that do have a person watching them, the efficiency of that individual, the ability to notice things severely goes down after a long period of time, after watching a camera. Even 15 or 20 minutes can bring that performance down. We want to take those forensic systems and activate them, turn them into preventive tools, doing one thing, looking for guns and reacting to them. We utilize an advanced artificial intelligence to do that. We take advantage of our 20 years of experience in communications and as an open integrator to facilitate an end-to-end workflow. I think the best way to really understand how we work before we dive into the details is to take a look at us in relation to an actual active shooting event. And we use the Parkland timeline for this for a number of reasons. It's a touchstone when it comes to gun violence in our country. The numbers, the timelines, the durations still measure up to averages today. Most importantly, though, it predates our technology. So we're not providing commentary. We're not criticizing. We're simply using this as an example of how shootings play out and how our product could integrate or interact with that timeline. I'll move through this fairly quickly. In the case of Parkland, that shooter arrived on premises, arrived at the building, moved into the building within 2 minutes of entering, had prepared the weapon, and the first shots were fired. About 30 seconds after that, the first of many 911 calls came in, giving some vague information. I hear a noise. It sounds like fireworks. I think it's near building 12. 30 seconds later, a fire alarm was initiated in the 1200 building, confirming its location. And 2 minutes after that, the school's response came out. These days, that would be a lockdown, a shelter in place. Back then, we prepared for active shooters quite differently, so it was an evacuation notice. That's going to be 3 minutes from shots fired to action on behalf of the institution. I can't complain about that. There's nothing wrong with that, especially considering, the prevailing attitude that it just can't happen here. The fact that Parkland is a big campus next to another large school campus, and there is the human need to confirm before we take action. 3 minutes is actually pretty darn good. But one thing that wasn't publicized, didn't need to be, was that during the preparation stages, before shots were fired, that individual stepped in front of a camera. And this is something that happens quite often when it comes to active shooter events. This is the sort of situation that Omnilert Gun Detect was developed to take advantage of. When we see a camera on a gun on a camera feed, we take that information, we package it up into what we call a priority alert, and we deliver that information nearly instantly to people and systems that can do something with it. We take images of the detection, video, the name, the ID, the location of that camera, and we put it in the hands of, for example, Omnilert monitoring staff that can very quickly vet that information and then escalate, triggering local actions like access control systems, alarms, notifying individuals, on-premises individuals, mass notification, all the way up to and including first responder dispatch, giving them those images, those videos, that location, so that they're arriving prepared. It's all about moving the needle. We're able to detect a weapon in a third of a second. We can get that information where it needs to be literally split seconds later, hopefully to prevent or mitigate that shooting. But we don't stop at first detection. I say that we activate systems very consciously. An active system's always looking. And in the case of Omnilert Gun Detect, we're going to run 24/7 on every camera that we're plugged into. With Parkland, that shooter passed in front of multiple cameras during his time on premises. That 6 minutes passed in front of several cameras, got several views. Each of those are an opportunity to detect and inform so that we're giving not just local resources that situational awareness, but the incoming first responders actionable intelligence that they can utilize to plan their response. With Parkland, they actually didn't get access to the images, the video from the cameras until after that shooter had fled campus when they arrived on premises. What we're giving instead is nearly instantaneous information, not just I hear a gun at this building, but images, video, what that shooter looks like, what they're armed with, how many of them there are, and most importantly, where they are right now. It's all about early detection and an earlier response. And as I said, we use an end-to-end workflow to make this happen. It does start with our artificial intelligence detecting a weapon. We then loop in a human being from one of a number of different locations to verify, and then we facilitate activation of people and systems so that you can push out a unified active shooter response. In the case of Velocity Vision, we integrate directly with that VMS in a number of ways, 2 ways. First off, we facilitate easy setup by doing camera importing directly from the VMS. This allows us to pull those camera feeds and very quickly set them up for monitoring. Secondly, when a firearm event occurs, when we see a gun on that camera, we very quickly take advantage of Velocity's bookmarking and alarming capabilities to push that information back into the system and allow you to either manually or automatically trigger actions. Simultaneously, we have the ability to push out actions from the Omnilert platform as well, whether that's a local server or our cloud. It really is an end-to-end response. But it does start with our AI detecting that weapon. And our AI has a pretty good pedigree. The technology has its infancy in the Middle East in a DARPA project identifying missiles moving at about 200 meters per second. Our director of AI, Chad, was involved in that project as a developer and had a tragedy at home. He had a family member who lost their life in the Sandy Hook shooting. And he said, how can I take this experience and keep people safe? Gun Detect is ultimately the fruition of that goal. our AI is very sophisticated. It's not a model that we just threw, a few million pictures of guns at and said, go find these. It is a multi-step detection algorithm. Yes, we're looking for a few thousand profiles of firearms, handguns, long guns, hunting rifles, military hardware, etc. But we're also looking for benign objects so that we can sort the wheat from the chaff. We're looking for things like cell phones, water bottles, backpacks, purses, torque wrenches. That's a very long list. Thirdly, we're looking for context. We're not just looking for a gun floating out in space. We're looking for a gun that's behaving like a gun. That context being a very important part of the puzzle. Once we build up these confidence scores on all of these different things, that's when we're going to very accurately make that detection and spawn actions. You'll see some examples of our AI at work here. It's about those blink and you miss it moments, a gun displayed to the screen for only a few seconds. As I said, on average, we detect a weapon in a third of a second, 0.36 seconds. And we can take that information and then very quickly get it where it needs to be. We're talking about a gun flashed out of a pocket, a gun transferred from a locker into a backpack, from the trunk of a car into a bag or into a jacket. Those quick moments are what we're here for. You'll see examples of the AI running here. Those white boxes indicating detections of people, the colored boxes indicating candidates that we are vetting and ultimately reporting on. This visual feedback, that red box that you see, only a single frame of that red box has indicated that we've successfully detected a weapon. And as I said, context, very important as well. This holstered weapon here, we're not going to detect, but as soon as Chad's hand touches it, we see the indication of a brandished pistol, a pistol threat. That's when we're going to make that detection. We're, of course, less forgiving for rifles. I think even in an open carry state, you want to know when an AR-15 walks onto your premises. And it's not just one or two people moving at a measured pace. It is those situations where a human being would be nearly unable to function in the same capacity, where we've got dozens, hundreds, or even tens of thousands of people moving in front of a camera in a day. Omnilert's going to use that AI to its most effectiveness, being able to detect a weapon quickly, even over these very active scenes, or in those locations where it might not warrant being a part of your camera rotation if we're pumping these directly into a security operations center. We are developed for the real world, those busy scenes and those out-of-the-way scenes, working on PTZ cameras, multi-sensor dome cameras, situations where older AIs simply don't function very well. It's all about being deployed in the real world so that when a gun is presented in your environment, you know about it, and in a lot of cases, help's already on the way. Once our AI has detected that weapon, it moves on to verification, and our verification can happen in a number of different places. We can put it directly into your VMS, like your Velocity Vision platform. We can push it out to your team via cell phone applications, text messaging, a number of other ways. We do have an open API for verification that allows third-party alerting, but most of our customers go with Omnilert monitoring, about 85% of them, because it facilitates some advanced workflows. We're able to very quickly vet that image. 11 seconds on average for verification. And this is done by professionals that have been in the field for a long time, 6 years on average at our monitoring centers, geographically distributed, technologically redundant facilities that escalate to first responders on a regular basis. These are people that walk the walk and talk the talk, with many arrests being made, not just for gun-related incidents, but other incidents as well. And when we escalate, when we confirm and escalate out of those centers, we're doing it in a programmatic method, connecting directly to local public safety answering points programmatically in a method compatible with computer-aided dispatch, mobile terminals, and in-car systems. So on every escalation, we're providing not just the fact that there's a gun on premises, but the images, the video, the location to back it up. That context ultimately being very important. And the first responders really appreciate it. It's the difference between I see a guy with a gun on campus and, the knowledge that this may be a benign device, or the video so that they can make their own decision. See that this is probably a student, might be a kid, could be a convincing airsoft rifle, who knows? And those first responders really do appreciate coming into the situation with that information. Once verification occurs, no matter where it occurs, we facilitate activation as well. It's all about very quickly moving to that next step so that we can push that information where it needs to be, whether it's to your local security operations center, your local individuals, triggering actions to do things like lock your doors with access control, set off alarms, trigger cloud-connected systems like notification platforms, in addition to escalating to first responders. It's all about a universal or a unified response to these systems. And we do work in a pretty big ecosystem of partners to make that happen, giving us a lot of options when it comes to what happens next. We're not just telling you, hey, there's a gun. We're facilitating that action. And it all happens fairly quickly. Just to talk about real world timelines and real world numbers, because I know that's something we don't get a lot these days. As I said, it takes us about a third of a second to detect a weapon when it is presented to a camera. If we're delivering that to a local resource like your VMS, your Velocity Vision System, we're talking speed on the network nearly instantaneously. In a case where we're doing brandish weapon exercises or I'm on-prem with clients of ours, we're talking, a gun is held in front of a camera, cell phones start blinking, devices start going off. Even when we add the bottleneck, and I'm going to do air quotes there, of our Omnilert monitoring, verification average is 11 seconds. That means that in less than half a minute, seconds still, we're able to notify via those same methods. And depending on the workflow, escalate directly to first responders, giving them that information, calling in the cavalry, and trigger those local devices. End to end in a monitored workflow, we're talking somewhere between 10 seconds and half a minute to have the response started. Not a minute, not 3 minutes. And in a locally verified workflow, the possibility is even faster. I mentioned that we've got a lot of different options when it comes to workflows because we know that all of our customers have spent a lot of time, money, and effort on their active shooter response. We're not looking to rip and replace. We're not looking to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. We want to make sure we're working with how you work, which is why we have so many options. We could go with a standard workflow where we're notifying, confirming, and then escalating. We could go with that locally verified workflow where the initial alert goes into your VMS, your Velocity Vision System, and your resources then respond to it. We can even do hybrid solutions where we include our monitoring, pushing those alerts to multiple locations to get the ball rolling on that response, how you prescribe. When it comes to deployment, we do deploy that artificial intelligence locally, and we are compatible with most camera systems out there. We're largely vendor agnostic. So those Hanwha cameras that Hirsch is supporting, certainly supported. We work very well on the Hanwha cameras. If you're using the best and brightest, if you're using something off the shelf from Costco, it's not the type of camera that we care about. It's going to be the quality of the feed that we're getting. We do like 1080p. We do like 15 to 20 frames per second or better because every frame is an additional opportunity to detect. What we need is that pixel density, the richness of the image in order to make a detection. On an average 1080p camera, you're going to get detection out to about 35, 40 feet from the lens. Higher resolution cameras push that out, as do narrower fields of view. Lower resolution cameras may be applicable as well. I've got a 720p in our lab that we use in a vestibule situation, a throw of about 10 feet or so, and we detect very well on it. As I said, that AI is deployed locally, and there's a lot of options there as well. We do have an Omnilert provided appliance that is rated for 50, 55, 1080p cameras that we use in most of our deployments. And that appliance comes pre-configured. It's pretty much plug and play. You install it, we have access to those cameras, and then we simply set up those workflows. This appliance works very well in small situations with 50 or so cameras or less, or if you've got a larger situation, we put out multiple appliances, give you some redundancy. In a lot of cases, when we're dealing with large organizations over a large geographic area, like a citywide school system or a company that has many outlets, a couple appliances locally to handle those local cameras, all feeding back to the cloud, certainly an option. When we get into larger deployments of hundreds or thousands of cameras, sometimes our clients want to go with rack mount hardware. And that's certainly something that can be configured and done through your reseller like Hirsch, or can be acquired directly from Omnilert. Our real requirements here are going to be we do our processing on NVIDIA graphics cards, and we utilize the Linux operating system on board to make that happen. Now, when it comes to the Velocity Vision integration, I did give a little bit of generic info right at the top. We can import cameras, we can push events back into the VMS, but let's dive down and take a look at it. Once detection's enabled, this is going to run entirely on the server. There's no need to set up bookmarking or event handling. This is all done via the API. When a gun is presented to the camera, as you'll see here, Velocity Vision will show visual feedback if you're looking at that screen, and then it'll create an event. Gun detected. The integration is going to create generic events. So when gun detections occur, you can use these to trigger actions in Velocity Vision through event rules. In the event log, if we look at the event rules, we can add a new rule, in this case, a generic event, by including events with the caption gun detected. We have a host of actions that we can spawn automatically, such as bookmarking, recording, switching to a specific layout. That list is going to go on and on. This allows our clients to spawn actions in Velocity Vision based on a gun being detected in Omnilert. And just to break that down again, that integration is twofold. First off, we're going to use it for setup to import cameras. And that's going to be by pulling those RTSP streams directly from the VMS. And when a gun is detected, we take advantage of the bookmarking and alarming capabilities of Vision to facilitate action. Simultaneously, we have the ability to trigger actions on the Omnilert side as well. Now, I mentioned the Parkland use case at the top of the presentation. I'll close out with a real life situation that we had not too long here at Omnilert. This is going to be 2 detections that came in from overlapping views of one of our clients in the Northeast, in this case, a public school. Verification time at the Omnilert Monitoring Center, 9 seconds. That detection occurred. The operator was on the line 9 seconds, reaching out to that point of contact. Their workflow prescribes, them being an educational institution, point of contact confirmation before we do any escalation. And they said, they had received the notification that we sent out to the app. They saw it. This is a known individual, a student, and he's been caught on premises before with BB guns. And they think this is the same situation, but their policy is to escalate no matter what. So they escalated to first responders. And while our agent was on the phone with the point of contact and dispatch, dispatch said it was a good thing we reached out because they had received another 911 call saying that there was a guy on campus with a gun. By arming them with that information, that context, the information that the point of contact put over there. This is a known individual, a child with what is most likely not a live firearm. They were armed with that contextual information. And because of that, while yes, they took care in their approach, the situation was de-escalated. No injuries, no arrests made. And it turned out it was an airsoft gun, something that was certainly benign. 1 week later, there was a shooting on premises at a school in Wisconsin because of a very similar situation. A student on premises with a toy gun. That context, I can't tell you how important that is. And it's something that we're doing every day. We're getting confirmed detections. People always ask me to prove the negative. Have you ever stopped a shooting? I can't say what didn't happen, but what I can say is that we're doing what we say we're doing. We're detecting weapons. We're doing it on a regular basis. We're escalating that information to first responders, and they are responding to these situations, whether it's a live gun, whether it's the occasional airsoft rifle, whether it's training events that are planned where maybe we're not dispatching on, or some of the numerous tests that we get from our clients. The system works. It simply does. When a gun is presented to the camera, you know about it quickly, and the appropriate action can be taken. And just to wrap it all up, like I said, our advanced AI can detect a weapon in less than a second. We can escalate it seconds later. And every escalation from our monitoring stations include that robust data, those videos, those images, that location. And we know that a video verified emergency receives a higher priority response from law enforcement than simply, I heard a gunshot. We use our 20-year veteran communications backend to support all of our communications. That's going to be millions of subscribers and hundreds of millions of messages a year. We've got, at this point, over 50 first-party integrations into systems like VMS, access control, alarm panels, that list goes on, and an open API in both the verification and alerting layers. And, anecdotal, but I do believe we're the only enterprise level solution out there with the largest visual gun detection deployments, our largest customer being 8,000 cameras over an entire citywide area. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Rick and the folks at Hirsch for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. So it looks like we have some questions in the panel here. So we'll get started. So the first question is, does it work? I'm assuming, does it work with all cameras and NVR?
Well, I can answer that in two different pieces. We did talk a little bit about cameras. We're not vendor specific when it comes to cameras. What we need is the video stream, usually in RTSP format, and most modern IP camera systems provide that. When it comes to how effective that camera is going to be, it really comes down to the specifics of that camera itself: resolution, horizontal field of view, lens quality. Some other factors on the camera can affect that. When it comes to what it's feeding into, the VMS, the NVR, we do have first-party integration with Velocity Vision, and there are some other VMSs out there that we can work with our open API.
And I'll just add, we are a reseller of Omnilert. Obviously, we focus on the integration of Velocity Vision and Velocity. However, this system can stand alone on its own with existing infrastructure that you already have. If you happen to be a long time Hirsch user, for example, and you have Velocity, but you have a different VMS, this can integrate with that VMS as well as directly integrating with Velocity itself. So you could pull in video from your existing NVR, get alerts and data and everything into Velocity for lockdown situations. So we are a full reseller of it. It does not have to be just with Velocity Vision, although I would prefer that. But the answer is it is open to several others as well.
Great. And a follow-up question to that one, do we need a subscription from your company for these services, or is it a one-time purchase?
So when it comes to the hardware required to run the artificial intelligence, that can be a one-time purchase, or it can be leased along with a contract. And it is an annual contract for the services, mostly because of the monitoring aspect and the fact that our AI improves over time. We're taking those detections and we are feeding them back into our AI on a regular basis. We release a new revolution of our artificial intelligence on, I believe, every 6 weeks is what we're at now. So as the system ages, performance gets better through this regular maintenance.
And I'll just add on to that again, and we offer everything as Eric mentioned. So you can get the gun detect appliance from Hirsch, the software, the services. You can also, if you have larger enterprise solutions, you can also deploy this, as Eric mentioned earlier, on all of the full hardware offerings that we offer as well.
Great. Any special hardware requirements? Also, how do you provide the location and frame?
When it comes to hardware requirements, mostly it's going to come down to the camera's capability itself. We do need to be able to run the AI locally. That's either going to be on an Omnilert provided appliance or on a Linux machine using the appropriate hardware. I would say above and beyond that, network capabilities. We want a nice snappy network. That's why we like to be close to the cameras so that we can get a full resolution stream. Above and beyond that, we do operate in systems that have pretty locked down network requirements. We do like to push the alerts out to the cloud for notification, but we can deploy in an air gap solution if need be. When it comes to how we provide the location, that's going to be, we require latitude and longitude associated with the camera in order to provide that out to first responders or the other folks. When it says frame, I'm assuming that you're talking about the detection frame, the red box, so to speak. Those are provided on the still images that we distribute as well. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, great. Is there a reoccurring license? If so, is it per channel or appliance?
The only reoccurring cost is the license per stream, and that is going to be per lens, per channel. So the number of licenses would be the number of camera streams to be monitored.
Okay, are you offering Omnilert directly to the end user or only through system integrators, security integrators?
So we are looking to move our
Hey,
sales.
Eric.
Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Dan. I'll let you take that.
Yeah, sorry
Dan
about that.
Harding,
No,
one of our sales associate here.
yeah, no problem. I just noticed that that same user, I think it is, they just qualified it. Is Hirsch offering OmniAlert directly to end users? That is. It's the second question down. Not to throw anything off, but Rick, do you want to handle that one? I think they were just asking about channel strategy, direct versus indirect.
Yeah, I mean, Hirsch historically and typically we don't go directly to the end user. We do sell through our integration and partner and channel network that way. There are special cases where we could go directly to an end user.
Okay, great. Next question. Can a single server or app be pushed to notify different end users, like camera A goes to guard A and camera B goes to guard B?
I've seen this question before, and I think it's because of some of the limitations of other solutions out there. We can alert per location. So if you're, say, a school district with multiple campuses, we can alert per campus, or we could break it down per building. Most of the time, what we're going to do is we're going to assign either a server or an individual camera to a location. You can think of that location as just a notification group. We also utilize that notification for dispatching purposes. So I believe what this is probably about is I've got multiple buildings or two different campuses I'm dealing with, and I want to be able to alert and dispatch individually. We certainly can do that.
Mm-hmm. And especially when you're following that workflow back through Velocity Vision. Again, all of that is 100% configurable. You can direct specific events to specific users with specific cameras. You can get very finite on that as well.
Okay, great. Are the updates free as new AI is developed?
Yes, we include all of those updates and support in our annual license. So there's not any hidden costs there where, oh, we've moved up to a new revolution and we need to we need to charge you for it. No, your annual license is going to take care of that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of subscription models. Subscription models, 99% of the time, everything is covered. It's a single cost. And when you purchase this, that flow again is through us as the reseller. We provide the direct support with Omnilert backing us up. So you still come to us. We have full 24/7 support capabilities along with every other product that we sell. So we are the frontline support on that as the reseller partner for Omnilert. Obviously, if you sign up for some of the Omnilert monitoring services, those go directly to them. It does not come through us. So we have the ability to resell those services as well, where they are doing the monitoring and then pushing back in your desired workflow.
Great. Let's see here. I saw someone raise a hand. Let's see, Thomas, I'm going to allow you to talk. You'll have to unmute on your side. Unless it was an accidental hand raise. Give it a second. Nope. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Does the subscription include support, and is support 24/7?
Yeah, I think we just touched on that one, but yes to both.
Perfect. What would cost be estimated for enterprise level 100+ cameras? I assume base cost for software and cost per camera.
Yeah, I can answer that a little generally, then I'll throw it over to Dan if he wants to get a little more specific. Couple things. First off, the cost is going to come down to the hardware to run the analytic and your annual subscription. And there is economy of scale when it comes to the number of cameras that you're plugging in. So if we're talking about, 5 cameras versus 500, your cost per camera is going to be drastically less at 500 plus. The only additional costs to that would be any setup fees that are associated with it. So if you're talking about 100 cameras, or if you're talking about 5 locations with 100 cameras apiece, the cost could be a little bit different. Dan, did you want to go into that a little bit more specifically?
Yeah, I think generally that covers it. I was just looking at Zach's question as well. And for anybody else out there, if you have numbers and specifics, we're happy to work with Hirsch and get you a proposal on that. There is economies of scale, as Eric mentioned, and then there's configuration considerations that we like to talk through with the partner, with this Hirsch sales representative, just to make sure we're covering everything. But as with most tools, as you deploy more, there's some benefits to that from a pricing perspective on the subscription fee.
And there is no base cost, by the way. It is strictly per camera license. You don't buy any sort of base license to get going. And then as Dan and Eric both said, there are additional services if you want those around deployment and things. But this is strictly per channel per year.
Absolutely. We've got customers out there with 6 cameras, and we've got customers out there with several thousand. So
Great. What is typical deployment time if we are using, let's say, 50 cameras?
So that would break down to a number of things. When it comes to install time to get the system up and running, that can be extremely quick. If you've got, say, 50 cameras all running at 1080p, we ship a server, you plug it in, we import those cameras. If we're going through Velocity Vision, that's extremely easy. We install the integration, we say, give us your camera feeds. Even if we're in a situation we're doing manual configuration of those cameras, if you can provide us with a manifest, usually that's an afternoon's work. Get those camera feeds set up and then vetted. I would recommend usually after that, a few days of getting used to the system, putting it through its paces, making sure those cameras are performing as we want them to, and then ultimately end the setup time with what we call a brandished weapon exercise, which is where we go out and test the system end to end. I've seen that go as fast as a week. Oftentimes, we've got customers out there that they don't move as fast as we do, so we're beholden to their timelines. And when I say a week, I mean a week end to end, from the time we start saying give us information through install and testing. In the first 60 days of operation, we are doing aggressive data collection from those cameras, meaning that as detections come through, we are looking at those and using them to annotate the AI so that we can improve in the next revolution. Some folks like to say that that's a 30-day, prep period, but the system's running, doing what it is at that point. We're just refining detection at that point.
Yeah, you're gonna have the system quote unquote up and running if you buy an appliance pre-built, ready to go, go crazy and call it 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think I'll just add on to that some of the things that may take a little bit longer is kind of defining and refining your workflow as well, to make sure that your workflow that is set up appropriately for you and your situation as well. So sometimes that can potentially take a little bit longer. But that would really kind of be one of the longer things, as well as what Eric said, over that 30 or 60-day period for that general data collection.
Great. Next question. Can we integrate this with Hirsch access control?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
And like I said, it can be through Velocity Vision, to Velocity, through our integration there. It can also be directly between Omnilert and Hirsch if you are not a Velocity Vision customer. And again, when we say Hirsch, we're talking about Velocity access control. Yeah.
Okay. We developed biometric facial authentication cameras that are compatible with ONVIF streams on Hirsch VMS. Can these cameras be integrated into the Omnilert system?
For detection, absolutely.
Absolutely.
As you probably know, facial recognition is much more strict on the camera requirements than firearm recognition. I think facial recognition likes to get mathy 100 pixels per foot. We go with 30 to 40 pixels per foot for detection, usually around the 40 mark or better. So those cameras we would expect to perform rather well. If you're using ONVIF, that is above and beyond our requirements. We just need a naked RTSP stream. So I would say those cameras would perform very well.
What is the fail rate and who owns the liability?
So when we say fail rate, that's a kind of a vague term. So I'll talk a little bit of math. When it comes to our performance, we are 99, I think it's 4 or 5 nines% on our accuracy rating. In other words, how often do we get the gun? And we're talking in an individual couple of frames. We're not talking about over the course of, a several minute brandishing of a weapon. If the gun's out there, we're going to get it. That's how it is. We need about 0.36 seconds to make a detection on average, depending on lighting, occlusion of the weapon, the pixel density, things like that. It could take a little bit longer. In some cases, it takes a little bit shorter. When it comes to that sort of situation, it's pretty high. We do have technical documentation that we can provide. If you want to reach out to, I believe, either Dan or your folks at Hirsch, we can work on getting you under an NDA and getting you that research. When it comes to who owns the liability, we're going to be very similar to, metal detection or audible detection in that case. Who owns the liability? That would be something we need to speak to insurance about. Oftentimes, a detection product like ours can reduce those insurance rates. Yeah, but just like any other detection technology, we're gonna function the same way.
Great. Okay. Is locked to is it locked to a camera or just a channel? And can we move to any camera as needed?
So we license you for a number of concurrent streams. It can be moved around. If you've got cameras that you spin up at location A for a month and you want to move into location B for a month, got a couple customers who do that in high threat areas. If you're talking about popping it from one to another on, a rotator like every 10 minutes or something like that, or on a schedule, there's no mechanism to do that. But it can be spun up and spun down on individual cameras as you need.
Okay. And does the cost per channel include the appliance, or would that be separate?
That would be separate, although we do have leasing options on the appliance. The appliance itself, Dan, correct me, it's retailing for $1,500 for a single appliance right now?
Yeah, and just to clarify that too, it's the lease and the appliance, that's only in the case of if we deliver the hardware. If the client has specific hardware or a preferred hardware vendor that they'd like to use, we can work with them on that configuration. The license under that scenario, there's no additional cost for the appliance license.
Okay. Do the installers have to be certified for installation and or tech support?
Rick, you want to take that one, or?
We currently don't have a certification requirement on this. We will work through our partner network to train up. Again, the installation is pretty simple and straightforward. Obviously, we also offer what some of you may used to know as IGS. It is now known as Hirsch Professional Services. So we also offer the ability to deploy this technology that way as well. But currently there is no certification requirements for the installation and support on this.
Okay, next question. Can we get a copy of this presentation? Yes, we will be sending out an email after probably in the next day or two with a recording. We'll provide the deck, and we have a piece of co-branded collateral to share with you as well. Okay, does the Omnilert side of the server / integration have to be internet facing? And does the monitoring / verification side have to be utilized, or can the system be used for local alerts?
Absolutely. So the system was originally intended to run unattended. The technology it's based on was run unattended. We added verification because the market demanded it. As I said, about 85% of our clients want verification. That being said, we can certainly run without the alerts going to the cloud, and instead can notify directly to for example, the Hirsch VMS or our local API direct from the server. There's a number of options on where we can send those alerting events. When it comes to our verification, that external verification, it gives you those additional workflow options for pushing out a response. But that can be, ignored if need be. And there are situations where we run without our cloud side of things at all.
Okay, and how is the detection for drive-by shootings, or how close does the camera need to be to the scene, especially at night, and does low light affect the capture?
So when it comes to detection distance, as I mentioned, that's going to come entirely down to the capabilities of the individual camera. On average, a 1080p camera is going to give you about 35 or 40 feet from the lens at a standard field of view. If we narrow that field of view down, or if we bump up to a higher resolution camera, 4K, 6K, etc., that can push that detection distance out quite a bit. We're getting detections out to literally hundreds of feet on narrow fields of view, kind of, long views on those cameras, zoomed images, things like that. We actually have an anecdote from running at a stadium where they had a PTZ camera with a zoom lens that they panned over the nearby buildings, looking specifically at roofs. And this was hundreds of feet away. We were able to get detections in that situation. Not every use case, but it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. When it comes to night and low light, it's entirely going to come down to the clarity of the image that we get from a camera. It's kind of the old, I'm looking at a picture of a polar bear in a snowfield kind of thing. If we can't see what we're looking for, we're not going to be able to detect on it. That being said, if you're using the newer cameras from companies like Hanwha, their light finding technology is exceptional. The images that it'll give you in the dark look almost as nice as a daytime scene. If you're talking about utilizing that old school night vision mode where everything goes black and white, your performance may vary depending on ambient light in the area.
Okay, how are you protecting the product from cyber threats?
Oh, that's a good question. So we are SOC 2 Type 2 certified. That can certainly be provided upon request. We also do have a cybersecurity assessment that we can provide as well. Long story short, we've been doing this a long time, and I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but I can say that we're doing it right. Please feel free to reach out if you need more information on that.
Yeah, and Eric, that's a good answer. It's a great question, and just to layer on top of that, just we've been through a number of regulated verticals, banking, healthcare, just to name a few. I'm sure there's others, but just off the top of my head, and are able to go through vendor assessments with swimming colors. We have a team that's available to address any of the concerns on behalf of the client for those regulated spaces.
Yeah, and the same applies to everything on the Hirsch, on the Velocity Vision side. We're ISO 27001, NIST 800-53. We align with all of those. Cybersecurity, we have full cyber hardening guidelines. We follow the full software development life cycle around those as well.
Okay, it looks like we got last couple questions here. Does speed of travel affect capture?
So I would have to say yes to a degree, but there's a lot of caveats around that. We look at the individual camera speeds as a series of still images. So if the subject is moving or if the camera is moving, in the case of like a PTZ camera, we don't care. As long as we can build a vector from frame to frame of simultaneous captures and they meet our requirements when it comes to that. I am sure that if we had someone hanging out the window of a car moving at 70 miles an hour, it would be tough for us to get a detection depending on how fast they move through the scene. A detection event, when it comes to this sort of analytic, typically is going to be somewhere between 3 and 5 simultaneous frames. So that should give you an idea. If someone's running, I think there was a video of someone running in the presentation, we're still able to detect. If it's someone zipping through very close at a ludicrous speed, I'm sure we'd have problems with that detection.
Great. Okay, it looks like this is the last question. If anyone has any other questions, now is the time to put them in the Q&A panel. Let's see here. Can the AI detect other weapons like knives, swords, bats?
So our system is specifically firearm detection. And mostly that's because of a couple of reasons. Firearm detection is extremely mission critical. It's extremely process intensive. And we want to make sure that we're doing that one thing uh, to the best of our ability, to be the best at it. When we start to diversify in other weapons, it does change focus. And I'm not saying that we're never going to do that. But right now, the product that we have is geared specifically towards gun detection, because that is, I would say, the biggest threat to public safety that we've got in the US right now.
Okay, and last question. How does gun detection handle people that should have guns, like security and law enforcement?
Well, today, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we ignore holstered weaponry. A holstered weapon is assumed to be a valid weapon because we deploy in locations with armed security. We deploy in open carry states, and cry wolf syndrome's real. Too many alerts erodes confidence in the system. For rifles, we're going to detect whether it's held at arms, whether it's shouldered. We're going to be a lot less forgiving. We are working on other methods of differentiating, say, law enforcement from someone else with a gun. Those are still in the early development stages. But right now, the assumption is a holstered weapon is benign, a weapon in hand is a threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes right back to what you said in the beginning around applying context to
Absolutely.
the situation. Yep.
Okay, and
And I saw Tom asked the last question there too, Ryan, around if we offer trials, they have a difficult site and not sure that the product would be successful. I'll speak for Hirsch. We're more than willing to definitely support a trial. Obviously, you know, there are some factors that go into that, you know, given the opportunity and other things, but we would certainly be willing to support the right trial. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
Omnilert would back us up on that.
absolutely. 100%.
Okay, great. So that will close up Q&A. If any other questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you everyone for being on today and for all your engagement and awesome questions.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, great
Eric,
questions.
yeah, thank you, Eric, Dan, Rick. Um, Everyone have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you all. Take care.